Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today, it is the 4th of June, 2024. It's Tuesday, and my name is Kerry Holzman. And greetings. Hello, everyone in the chat room. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm going to do a review of the latest Geekom Mini PC that's top shelf. We're going right to the tippy top of AMD offerings on the mobile side. It doesn't get right now, as of June 4th, 2024, on a mobile platform. There is nothing better in the mobile platform from AMD than what we've got in this little box right here. And we're going to go over those specs in a minute. This box is still completely sealed and wrapped in plastic. I want to do a real unboxing experience for you, and we'll see if we go through the out-of-box experience, etc., etc. I will tell you from my personal experience that Geekom is very, very close, and always has been from the first time I've tested them, to the original Intel NUC in quality and in support. Everything's been above board. We haven't had any issues with any malware or suspicious installs or activation issues or other things we might have experienced from other lesser-known mini PC manufacturers. Now, of course, ASUS bought the licensing from Intel for the NUC, since Intel doesn't make them anymore. And this is sort of an AMD version of an Intel NUC, if you will. That's the best example I could give you. And it kind of looks like it almost looks like an Apple Mac Mini or something. But we're going to take a look at that today and do a true unboxing, live, unscripted, unedited. So these videos do tend to run a bit longer than most of the polished commercials you watch disguised as reviews. Feel free to watch those if you want that commercial type information provided. We're going to look at the good and the bad, the misunderstandings I might have from a first-time experience. As a 30-plus year professional technician in IT, which I still do as my day job, there are certain things I've grown accustomed to. So when something brand new throws me and it's not intuitive to me, part of that may be because of my experience, and part of that may be because, well, it's a completely different design, which could be good or bad depending on how you see it. I always appreciate the Geekom products. You can look back through other Geekom reviews we've done here, and I can't think of one I've seen I didn't like. And there is also an Intel model, high-end Intel model, which we will get to either later this week or next week if you're not an AMD fan. However, by covering the AMD here, this is as good as you can get on a mobile AMD platform. So just so you know, right out of the gate, they do have two versions of this. One's a step lower with a Ryzen 7 instead of a Ryzen 9. And we'll talk about that coming up. In the meantime, hello to all my friends in blue and in white here in the chat room. And for full disclosure to the folks over at Geekom, sent this to me for free in exchange for a review, but no other stipulation. It'll sneeze. Ha, live video, man. I get past. Our thanks to the folks at Geekom for sending this to us and trusting us, first of all, that we're going to get it done without a contract, that we're not obligated to say anything at all other than what we want to say. And as I mentioned, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say biased, but with my previous experience with Geekom, I'm very much anticipating and looking forward to the latest and greatest offerings, because they've always, historically with the reviews we've done here, they've always impressed me. So I'm expecting to be impressed. Okay. I just want to get that out of the way. If I thought something was going to be terrible, I wouldn't bother making a review on it. Okay, so I'm sure I can find things I don't like about it, because that's what I'm really good at. And let's take a look over at, I'm trying to think how to get started here. Let's take a look at the mini PC A8 from Geekom at their official website. Now we have links to all of the Amazon Geekom official website, as well as Amazon UK and Australia, And Geekom also has different websites, I believe, for UK and Australia. And you're going to find all those links, depending on where you're watching me from, in the video notes below this video right now. And of course, thanks to Marlena for putting the video notes together and the great thumbnail she did for today's video. Let me switch over to my video capture and let's take a quick look over here at Geekom's official page. And then we can compare that to the Amazon page. Okay, so kicking us off here with the geekompc.com website. This is all official. As it says right up at the top, they have a Ryzen 9 and a Ryzen 7 version of this, ranging from $700 to $850. This is top shelf. And then, you know, the Ryzen 7 would be one step below second shelf. It's going to be DDR5. It has the built-in GPU, which is the Radeon 780M. That's built into the CPU. That is by far the best integrated graphics available today from anyone as of this June 4th, 2024. If you're looking for the best mobile graphics chip built into a CPU, this is it. This is the one. It doesn't get any better. This is top shelf. Again, we're at DDR5 RAM. We've got a Gen 4 NVMe. In our case, this build we have is the Ryzen 9. It has 2 terabytes of storage and 32 gigs of RAM, I believe, is how they sent it to us. Let me just take a look at the specs on the back of the box. Yeah, that's what we got. And let's see what else we can learn about this. You'll see that there are a couple different configurations here, and obviously the less you pay, the less you get. The more you pay, the more you get. And here's some close-ups of how they're promoting this unit. It is chock full of ports back there. I don't really see where they could have added any more. That's pretty full. It looks like you can have up to 4 monitors on this thing. Let's keep looking. Of course, everybody wants to talk about their cooling system because the internet's obsessed with that. So there's whatever IceBlast is. One would assume if you're buying a mini PC that's top shelf that it would have an adequate cooling system, but nonetheless. A little bit of information on the CPU variants that are available. 2 options, and of course, price difference between them accordingly. Up to 64 gigs of RAM is what it supports. And they're saying up to 2 terabyte storage. It's very small. The dimensions of this unit are very, as I mentioned, very original Intel NUC-like. 5.2 Bluetooth, and of course that Radeon 780M graphics. Now, this computer is sort of a minor upgrade from the A7. If you remember, we did the A7 review. This is a pretty small step ahead. It's sort of a I would describe it as a minor upgrade from that. So if you had an A7, you're still pretty much running very much similar specs, except this has the Nero processing unit, so developed for AI. And of course, this has USB 4 on it, which is great if you want even better graphics and you want to go to a discrete graphics card and an external graphics card, right? You could use the USB 4 for that. Now, I personally, I wouldn't really buy any of these mini PCs for gaming, but you could. You absolutely could, depending on the games you play and the settings you play at, depending how demanding you are. This is what appears to be a great content creation PC, or PC for handling video rendering, for handling AutoCAD. It really seems like there's nothing this can't do. And I mean do well. It's an 8-core, 16-thread processor on the Ryzen 9, the one we're looking at today, up to 5.2 gigahertz using 4 nanometer technology with 38 tops, a trillion operations per second. Is that right? Teraflop? I can't think of what the T stands for. All right, let's keep moving on. Again, a lot about AI. We're going to be talking about this for the next year or 2 years. That's the magic marketing word, like 4K ready and VR ready and all this other stuff. Right now, it's still early. A lot of AI processing is being done on the server side rather than on the workstation or on the individual machine. But as these machines get more powerful and AI gets optimized, the idea is that your machine can just do it all locally. So again, about that graphics card, whether you're gaming, editing, streaming, expect crisp visuals and exceptional performance. I agree with that. That's the RDNA 3 with Ryzen AI. There's some examples of some games in frame rates. They don't really tell us resolutions or details. Inside, you'll see it's got two modules for RAM, enabling dual channel DDR5. We've got a single Gen 4 NVMe socket. There is no upgrade to a second NVMe. There's no room in here. There's also no room for a 2.5-inch drive, nor would you want that. Again, I keep emphasizing, if everybody's so obsessed with heat, stop trying to jam so much inside of them. It's common sense. If you want to, make this thing run super hot, you should probably get a bigger case if you're also obsessed with the heat. There's a trade-off, and it's true of any mini PC. So I appreciate the fact that they've limited those options because it'll reduce the customers who unwisely try to jam a lot of fire inside of this from complaining that it runs too hot. Let's take a look at the ports. There's our USB 4 Gen 3 Type-C. We've got a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A. That's going to be 10 gigs per second. And a USB 3.2. That's also a Type-C. Now, don't confuse those. The one here on the left is going to be USB 4. The one on the right is going to be USB 3.2, even though they look the same and have the same Type-C connector. Now, you can use both of these USB Type-Cs for DisplayPort out to get 2 more monitors in addition to the 2 HDMI ports for a total of 4 monitors. Then this black USB port down here, this is a USB 2.0 Type-A. We've got I believe this is a 2.5 gig Ethernet connection. MediaTek Wi-Fi. On the front, we've got 2 more USB 3.2 Gen 2s, both Type-A's, a 3.5 millimeter front headset stereo jack, and a power button. And yeah, there it is. 4 quad. You can do 4 displays up to 8K, which is insane, exactly as I was telling you. So it looks like the USB Type-C ports will do 8K and the HDMI ports will do 4K. That's a lot of monitors. Of course, USB 4 can transfer up to 40 gigabits per second. It does have some power delivery, but only up to 15 watts on the USB 4 port. Supports DisplayPort output up to 8K and external devices like external GPUs, external SSDs, external VR headsets. That's what's great about having a very high performance port on the back of the computer. A little bit more about their IceBlast 1.5 cooling system. This really refers to the CPU. There doesn't appear to be much in the way of cooling on the other side where the RAM and the SSD go, unfortunately. So I would be concerned that if you were pushing this hard for a long period of time, that there could be some throttling either with the SSD or RAM in theory, but you'd have to push it hard for quite a bit. Maybe some heavy-duty gaming sessions for hours on end. I see a potential there without any cooling on the other side. But your CPU will be fine. Your CPU won't throttle. This is a 45-watt machine, so it's low power. If a traditional computer uses 350 watts, this is 87% less than that, meaning it's going to cost you less to run and be friendlier to the environment. It does come with the Visa mount here is what it says. So you could mount this on the back of a monitor or under a desk or not use it, just set it somewhere on a desk. It's very small and quite attractive. It doesn't look cheap to me. These are all the tests they run on it. Comes pre-installed Windows 11 Pro. You can also install other systems like Linux. Now that MediaTek Wi-Fi card, I'm not quite sure that there's a Linux driver for that. Maybe there is, but that's the only thing I would be concerned about. Okay, and that brings us to the bottom of the page. Now looking over at the Amazon page, we should have the same information. We see a price point of $849. Now the folks at Geekom did give us a discount code that we can use either on their official site or on Amazon. So save some money. Reviews on this look really good. We got 4.5 stars based on 68 ratings. And then this should be all the same stuff we've already read here. It looks like on the Amazon page, this is just the Ryzen 9 model. I don't see the other model here. Does this sit over here? Scrolling down. Yeah, I think we're back to the factory information from the main website here that's just been duplicated over there, which is what you'd expect. Let's see, this is the 8. Oh, okay, here's the other model. So they are here. You'll see that price difference. And then, what is this? This is the A7 here, and then the A5. And, you know, basically, this A7 and this A8 are very similar. The A8's a little bit better, and that's why the price difference is only $50 more. But remember those discounts, okay? So you don't need to pay that full retail price. Somebody didn't like it. What did they say? Oh, this thing should have a 3-year warranty, so I don't know what's going on here. I've never had a problem with any support from Geekom. Same prices as from 2 years ago. They didn't sell this 2 years ago, so I'm a little confused about that one. Somebody got a dead on arrival one, had a dispute. If you're buying it from Amazon, there should be no problem with a return. I don't understand why anybody would. Look, when something arrives DOA, and I'm just saying, it could be your delivery driver drop kicked it to your front door. That may not be the fault of the manufacturer. But that being said, with Amazon, they have 30-day returns for any reason. Doesn't even matter why. I don't know why somebody would have gone through it this way unless they didn't buy it from Amazon. And I assume if they bought it direct from Geekom, they would have not had a problem either. But they definitely would not have had a problem from Amazon. So this does not say they're a verified purchase on any of these. So we don't know how legit those people are with their understanding of what they bought, what damages that might have occurred in transportation, or how technically minded they are. But overwhelming, the people love it. I mean, the number of 5-star and 4-star reviews is multiple times more than the 1-star. You know, just 5% of 1-star. And if I don't see any 1-star reviews, I personally think it's sketchy. Something sounds too good to be true. I want to see 1-star reviews, and I want to see some people with impossible expectations being unreasonable, complaining that they didn't get enough, or just the transportation is the fault of the manufacturer, the mishandling, or their issues with a lack of understanding and patience are, again, unreasonable, and they didn't get something with instant gratification because something didn't go according to plan. That's very unusual. And now they are beyond upset because they feel as though they've somehow been swindled, which is just preposterous. So again, decide for yourself when you read the reviews, and hopefully you will share your experience, good or bad, and add to those reviews with hopefully some clarity. All right, let's go back over to camera 1 here. Perfect. Switch this over here. And let me take a quick look at what I'm missing in the chat room. A lot of folks saying hello. There's our friend Oystein. Of course, a shout out to our friends Peter Laycock, our friend Buster, as we call him. Luke Greeny out there in Vermont. And of course, all of our members and friends in blue, to each and all of you, welcome in if you're just joining us. Shamim Kajviras renews his membership. Now he's on month 12. How cool is that? He says, I can't believe that I've been a member for a year. Thanks because for this amazing channel. If you don't see me around, it's because I'm out of time, but I always catch up and I never miss a video, and hugs. Right on. Well, thank you, Shamim, and thank you for continuing to support the channel. And I'm glad you're enjoying the content. We enjoy having you here. All right, we ready to see what this thing's like? Remember, there's no prep, there's no rehearsal, there's no script. I don't know what's in this box. Is it DOA? Does it match anything these people online say? Good or bad? Let's find out. Doesn't get any more real than this. This is about as close as I can get to sharing a virtual experience that could be yours. In other words, you could order this, you're going to receive it just the same way I do, and you're going to go through all the same things I go through, no differently. It's not like there's more than one way to take it out of the box or to plug it in. And let's see, does it work? Does it not work? I mean, you read some of these reviews and you think you were buying a ticking time bomb, and some of these people are just unlucky, unreasonable, or extraordinarily impatient, or just always want to be victims, because those things just do not align with any of my experiences with most mini PCs, let alone from Geekom. And they're not paying me to say that. I'm just telling you, as a professional technician, I've seen some pretty shady, well, we've seen them together, some pretty shady companies, especially when you go to like AliExpress or Wish.com or Temu. Man, there's some shady stuff out there, and they will rip you off. Geekom's not one of those companies, folks. I don't get it. Here's how it's packaged. Oh, wow, this is smaller than I thought it was going to be. Wow. Some reason I thought it was going to be bigger, and pleasantly surprised. All right, let's bring it up to the camera. So here's the front of the unit. I think this is all metal. The top is plastic. The bottom is plastic. Oh, we have an SD card reader. Okay, so let's take a quick look. Everything should match what we looked at on the website as far as our ports. Full-size SD card reader. That's nice. Nothing over there but ventilation. And then, of course, just as pictured, yeah, that is a 2.5 gig. It says right on it. 2.5 gig Ethernet, 2 HDMIs, 2 USB 3s, Type-C, a barrel power connector, more ventilation. Look how tiny that is. I've had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that was bigger than this. That's about the size of a slice of bread, maybe about 3 slices or 2 Texas toasts. All right, let's put that there. Take a look at what's going on in here. We have some documentation. Dear customer, thank you for purchasing. Okay, great. Little get started manual here. Very good. Underneath. These screws are going to be for the VESA mount, which is right here. Power cable, it's a laptop style cloverleaf power cable. HDMI cable. Nothing else. but the power supply right here. Not a gigantic power supply, which is good. I don't see anything that says Geekom on this, right? You know, I'm a stickler for that because with these standard barrel power connectors here, they can fit into a lot of different electronic items. But if the voltage is wrong or the polarity is wrong, you can destroy, burn up if you plug the wrong power adapter in. So I would get a silver Sharpie and write, you know, Geekom A8 on this, or get my label maker just in case this were to get separated from that. How would I know this is the one that goes with it? And we have so many devices that use these now, whether it's a modern day clock, so many different things that charge. The cameras I use have barrel connectors. The clock I've got right here uses a barrel connector, and this might fit. And if I use the wrong one, I cannot emphasize how dangerous that is to guess. Some people like, well, if it fits, it must be the right one. No. So if I were you and you have any of these power adapters plugged into electronics items that don't display the name of the manufacturer or device on it, I would take a minute and label it. Or again, I buy a silver Sharpie, they're under $2 at the store, and just write on it with my, you know, my chicken scratch writing. It might be secret code for everybody else, but I can read it. Doesn't have to look pretty. It's going to sit on the floor, hopefully not seen regardless. All right, so there's one thing I don't like. That's pretty minor. Let me just put this stuff back in and clear some counter space. And let's fire this up. Is it going to be DOA like that reviewer said? Power connector. We're going to leave Ethernet out of this because we should go through a first time out-of-box experience where when Windows boots up, it should ask us to agree to the license agreement, ask us to set up either a local account. Actually, if it's a default unmodified Windows 11 install, it won't offer us the offline account. We'll have to do the Shift F10 bypass NRO thing. The good sign about that is you know it's likely a 100% genuine unmodified Windows 11 install. Not that being a modified install is bad, but it can't make you wonder what else was modified. So let's find out what it does. Let me grab a keyboard and a mouse. There's my keyboard and mouse dongle right there. I need power. We'll just use my standard power cable over here. And let's see. HDMI input. Let's go ahead and turn this on. A little blue light on the front. I don't know how well you guys can see that. And let's flip over to our capture card. Okay, that's what it should be doing on the first boot up, is we have no signal yet. We should see that screen go black here in just a minute. And our first boot usually takes a little bit longer. That's normal. I got to say, it doesn't appear to be dead on arrival or DOA to me. And they're not sending me anything special. They're sending me the same thing you would buy. It's not like there's a reviewer unit in this case. Sometimes we get prototypes or early releases. This is not one of those. All right. Yep, that's what we want to see. English. We definitely did not want it booting right to a desktop like we've seen from other mini PC manufacturers. But this is pretty much the norm for Geekom, doing everything above board the way they should. All right, so it does want to connect us to a network. So we're going to hit Shift F10. And then I have to click on this box to put it in focus and then type in, what is it, OOBE, out of box experience, / bypass NRO. This makes a registry entry and reboots for that registry entry to take effect. And it's going to take us through these steps one more time. That's a normal unmodified Windows 11 install. Currently, as of June 4th, 2024, that's normal. Richard wants to know, is this device heavy? I wouldn't call it heavy. I mean, it kind of weighs exactly like it looks. But I wasn't thinking about that when I was holding it. It didn't strike me as being heavy or light. Otherwise, I would have said something like, oh, that surprises me. You know, it kind of felt like I expected it to. The metal case is likely some lightweight aluminum type material would be my guess. Or as the British say, aluminium. Gotta add the extra I in there for our friends in Europe. All right, let's go back over to the setup. So once again, we'll go back through this same thing because by making that registry change, it undid, or it didn't save rather, the questions we've already answered. But now I have this option that I don't have internet, and I have to tell it twice. Accept the license agreement. Then we'll just put in the word user, enter, blank password. You know me, I leave everything off but location, and the date and time will take care of itself. At all times, not just now. I'll tell you, this thing's pretty snappy. You can hear the fan. It's not bad. Again, with my AC running, I can barely hear it. I'm sure when we make this thing really work, we're going to hear that fan crank up with a Ryzen 9 processor or any flagship processor. The problem you're going to run into on a high-end chip is it's going to run hotter. In order to get that high-end chip, you're going to need a more aggressive cooling system. The good news is the cooling system only needs to be aggressive when you as the user are being aggressive. It should not be idling very loud. In fact, I would say that the idle fan noise on this is pretty normal. Some we've heard are dead silent, and you can do that with the really lower end CPUs, the cheaper models, because they don't require as much power, they don't generate as much heat. But sometimes it's hard to tell if they're on or not. But if I listen carefully, if I'm really quiet, I can hear the fan at idle speed. I don't have a problem with that. It's kind of reassuring to me that it's on and that the fan is working. All right, let me grab my Ethernet cable and just plug it in back here. And let's take a look, first of all, at our specifications before I go much further. Let's take a look at the device manager. And everything looks good in here. When it comes to the network adapters, so yeah, it's a Wi-Fi 6E for MediaTek. And the Ethernet LAN is a Realtek Gaming 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. If we look at our system properties, we can verify CPU, RAM, and Windows version. So let's take a quick look. Ryzen 9, that's us. 32 gigs of RAM, that's correct. That is DDR5. And it is Windows 11 Pro 23H2. Thank goodness they're not giving us 22H2. That means there's fewer updates for us to catch up on. Yay! The standards between PC manufacturers is when you think about it. Oh, I don't have an internet connection yet. Hold on. There it goes. What other mini PC manufacturers call good enough, if you're looking at a lot of very aggressively priced mini PCs for manufacturers you've never heard of, the difference in how these PCs come out of the box and how they're set up is like night and day to me. Like the Geekom model that we're looking at right now is set up the way I would have set it up if I was the one who built it and sold it. But yet when we look at some of the cheaper, lesser known manufacturers in the mini PC range, you'll often hear me excuse a lot of the oversights or even unnecessary OS reinstall because it's so weird or untrustworthy. I just feel like, the mini PC itself in most cases is fine. It's the software and the way that they put the operating system on that I have issues with. And then I think that's okay because I paid less for it. If it was the same price as the Geekom and they shipped it to me that way, obviously that would not be acceptable to me. So the lesson here is you're going to get what you pay for. And when you stick with a name brand like Geekom, there is a higher level of quality and customer service than you're going to see from lesser known brands, generally speaking, especially if you're looking at like AliExpress or some manufacturer you've never heard of before. Now, Geekom's been around, I don't know, 21 years or something. They've been around a long time. And again, if you look back at my reviews or even other review channels here on YouTube or on the web of Geekom mini PCs, I think you'd be hard pressed to find one that's negative. That's not to say they're flawless. Nothing is flawless. But they have a very good consistency of quality, and very happy to be working with them, even though there's no money involved. I could not afford to buy this to review it. So we would not have this review if not for their kindness of sending it to us. So I appreciate that very much. There are some companies that want us to review their product that I don't want anything to do with. You guys don't know about that. But Mara gets the requests all the time. And she goes, hey, do you want to get this? And I'm like, yeah, no. No, it's just another entry-level budget, no-name brand, $150. We've covered it. We kind of know what to expect. Beggars can't be choosers at that level. They're all kind of the same in where they fall short for me. Nothing a fresh OS install can't fix, but they're still limited on upgradability. And, if that's all you can afford and that's all you can get, adjust your expectations accordingly and you won't be disappointed. Then, of course, you got the middle. I'm a big fan of the middle. And then you've got what we have today, which is the top of the line. This is the top shelf. Now, the fact that the top shelf is as affordable as it is just a sign of the times. Top shelf a couple of years ago would have been at least 20, 25% more than this is today. So you're getting more power in a smaller, quieter package with more ports that's faster for less money. And such is the way with technology, or at least the way it should be. Now, as I'm looking in here, there's a few things I just want to look at while we're waiting. I'm going to go ahead and turn on this option and turn on this option. And I'm going to turn on that option. I see no optional updates. That's unusual. Yeah, I very much like how the Geekom out-of-box experience is so similar. I cannot express to you how I would have done this any better than they've done it. The only other thing I'd be concerned about is the AMD Adrenalin software. Yeah, there it is. Is that installed? It's probably going to be out of date because AMD updates this. Now, 24.2.1 is not the latest version. It says up to date, but that was from the last time it checked. Pretty sure it's 25. Let's just check for updates and see. Yeah, 24.5. So again, pretty minor update. But let's go ahead and grab that. And while this is working, let me go back over to camera 1. And let's see what questions, if any, you guys have for me on this. Now, again, as a reminder, Geekom. Oh, do I have sleep mode on? You know what? That always throws me. I always forget to check that. Let's go back and make sure the power settings aren't going to put this thing to sleep on me. Now, I think I don't use sleep mode on anything that doesn't have a battery in it because it does tend to be a bit finicky. And I've heard that sleep mode does not, like proper sleep, does not work on this correctly. But I haven't tested that myself, nor would I want to, because I don't. What I'm worried about is if the monitor goes to sleep. See this put the computer to sleep? I would say never, ever. Thank you for reminding me to check this, by the way. And then turn off the display. Normally I'd set that to about 20 minutes, but because we're live here, I don't want it to happen during the live broadcast. And then I hit that Save Changes button. Yeah, I'm glad you said something. Because if this falls asleep while it's updating, it may mean that it doesn't recover from the update properly and we have to start downloading the update again. It doesn't damage anything. It just means that while we're live, we might just be having to spin our wheels with more time trying to redo what we'd already started that hadn't finished. So it does look like sleep mode is enabled, and I'm not quite sure what the issue that I've heard about with sleep mode. I'm not sure what that is, but I don't recommend sleep mode unless you have a battery. And I don't understand why it was set that way out of the box. I would have turned sleep mode off. So there's one difference. And I don't know how much control you have over that unless you modify the Windows 11 installer. And then if you modify the installer, then it's like, what else did they modify? So maybe that's no fault of Geekom. That may be how Microsoft set it up out of the box. But if I had any mini PC or any desktop computer, I never put them in sleep mode. A laptop, that's different. There's our friend Jack Wilson. Jack contributes 20 bucks. He says, well, howdy late, but I'm here. Well, thank you, John. Or should I say Jack? It's always good to see you, my friend. Again, I'm looking for questions in the chat. So let me go back to where I was here before I got that little squirrel moment. Mara confirms Geekom was founded in July of 2003. So they're going to be 21 years old. I think they're going to do some anniversary deal. They're supposed to have a special announcement on YouTube. Geekom does have a YouTube channel. Marco says there is an I in aluminium. Not in the United States, there isn't. Well, in the United States, you have the first I, but the last three letters are NUM, aluminum. But in England and in other places in the world, they add an I, but that's American versus English. Marco joins us from Italy. Always good to see our friend Marco. He came out, he was living in Florida. He came out for a vacation, met up with Mitch and I. It was like April of 2021, maybe. Anyway, great visit with Marco. It's always great when we can meet the viewers face to face, put a face to the blue name, you know. For me, you guys get to see me. I don't get to see most of you, so it's sometimes hard to know who I'm talking to. Am I talking to a child? Am I talking to a mirror? I don't know until I meet you. So that's always great when that's able to take place. Netterman says he could put painter's tape on this and then write. You can. So the problem I have with painter's tape is if you leave it on there for years, it will leave behind a sticky residue that's almost impossible to get off. And on top of that, as the paint fades, whatever they've used to paint this, anything under the sticker will remain unfaded, even if you can clear all the stickiness off. Painter's tape is great if it's just going to be temporary. But if you leave painter's tape on for a couple of years, good luck. So I'd rather use a proper label or a Sharpie In this case, of course, we're not talking about labeling the PC. We're talking about the brick. So I guess it really doesn't matter. No one's looking at the brick anyway. So I just take back everything I said. I don't know what I was thinking. We don't need to label this. This says Geekom right on it. This also needs to say Geekom on it. So that's two things that I would do differently. I would make sure this is branded as Geekom on the power adapter, and I would make that sleep mode disabled. Those are two very minor concerns, but we'll keep going. Let's see what else we have. What wattage is the power supply? Old Man 55 wants to know. 19 volts, 6.32 amps, 120 watts. It's warm, but it's not hot. Ray Gallagher says this has to be the most powerful, smallest desktop out. I think you're right. I do believe this is the smallest AMD Ryzen 9 flagship processor currently on the market. I believe that to be true. Luke Greenia says FedEx is late today. I don't know what's going on with FedEx lately, Luke, but I sent a package overnight that took 4 days, and I've sent other packages that arrived no less than 1 day late. So far, I don't think anything's arrived on time, no matter where I've shipped it. I don't know what's going on. They've never been this bad before, and they've never been this expensive. So I got a feeling I'm going to be shipping a lot less because the prices are out of control. The service is terrible. There's a FedEx store I was going to. I won't go to anymore because they keep rotating employees. And I usually have a great interaction with their employees, but they've got an employee there at this local store that is just militaristic, and I don't care for it. I complained to FedEx, which I normally wouldn't do unless it's really, really bad. And I just told them, I'm not expecting you to do anything about it. I don't care. I'm not going back there anyway. But I want you to know this isn't in line with the type of way I'm talked to, the professionalism and the courtesy I'm accustomed to at FedEx. I said, I've been there 3 times, and all 3 times there's like a tension between us. I can't put my finger on it. I'm not going back to that store. I just want to make you aware. And, you know, just on top of everything else, it is disappointing. Hopefully things will get better. I am starting to hear this fan crank up right now, so it must be installing something. Let's go back over to the screen capture and see what it's doing. All right, now the fan is quieted back down. So again, it was very temporary. Let's take a quick look at what our updates are doing here. This is just downloading. This has all been installed. So while that's downloading, I just don't want to install 2 things at the same time. Not that you can't. I just think you have a higher chance of success. If Windows Updates is just downloading, then we can install. If Windows Updates is installing, then I'll wait for those installations to complete before starting this one, just to be cautious. Other times it might kick back and tell you, hey, you got another install going on, or you need to restart your computer first. If you have an AMD system, it's very important, regardless if you have an AMD graphics card. As long as you have an AMD CPU, you want this AMD Adrenalin software because that's going to be your chipset drivers. If you've ever done a reinstall of your operating system and you look in your device manager for stuff that hasn't loaded, like let's say you've downloaded or you've installed a fresh, clean Windows 11 on your AMD desktop or your AMD laptop or your AMD Mini. You go through all your Windows updates and then you think everything's fine. And then you look in the device manager and realize there's a few items that don't have any drivers. That's because you didn't put the Adrenalin software on. When you do this, then your device manager will have all of those items that were missing drivers will then be automatically updated through this software. And it also adds better performance better security and better reliability to your system. So it's important you not only have it, but keep it updated. It's the equivalent of Intel's chipset INF. It's basically the same thing, but AMD's version of it. And you don't get this from Windows Update, unfortunately. You have to know to get it. And if you never look in your device manager, you may never know those items aren't loaded, that they don't have drivers, and you may not be getting the performance that you paid for. So bear that in mind. Now, once you've installed it, it should alert you when there's a big update. But as for these little minor updates, wouldn't hurt you to check them once a month just to make sure, just to verify if you always want the best performance and best reliability. Otherwise, you could just leave it alone and let it self-update. That's fine too, if it's good enough for you. That's all that matters. Once again, I'm hearing that fan crank up. It's certainly quite noticeable. The smaller the package with the higher end the CPU, the more you can expect that fan noise during any sort of intensive workload. Now, if it ran this loud all the time, it would be unacceptable. If I was playing a video game for hours and it was running this loud, I'd turn the volume up on the game. It sounds like a small, if you ever have a fan in your room, like a small fan that, you're using to cool yourself off on the summer and you've cranked it up to high. Well, I'd say you cranked it up to medium. That's about the level, but now it's quieted back down. So just having a few moments of it, I actually like that. It reassures me the system's actually working. I want to hear that fan ramp up and ramp down. I just don't want it to stay at one place or the other for any long period of time. I expect if I'm rendering a video on this, that fan's going to crank up for the entirety of how long that render takes. That's fine with me because I wouldn't necessarily be there. If it's rendering, I might. My videos are so long, they can take a while to render, even on the highest end systems. So if I don't hear that fan cranking up, I have to assume I'm not rendering using all the power available. I want to hear that fan crank up. That reassures me that system's working. So pros and cons, depending on how you want to look at it. Now the system's completely silent again. It's normal. And again, the smaller the package, the smaller the fans have to be. The higher the CPU, the hotter it gets and the more aggressive the cooling has to get. So they've really done something special in a package this small. The fact that works at all without overheating is impressive. But I certainly wouldn't want to add any more heat, again, I understand why there's not a second NVMe slot. I understand why there's not the ability to add a 2.5-inch drive. All you'd be doing is just putting more fire inside. So you definitely want a bigger box. If that's what you want, don't buy something this thin. That's all I'm saying. Or if you're going to buy something that thin, don't buy such a high-end CPU. Get something more along the middle or lower. All depends on your expectations and your budget. Jeff H said he's got 2 Minisforum mini PCs over a year now, and they both work great. Yeah, Minisforum also makes excellent mini PCs. I'd say Geekom, Minisforum, when it comes to reputable companies that do a great job in their hardware engineering and the software design when you get the machine, they're definitely 2 of my favorites. Asus does a great job as well, but we don't see many of their units. I think ASRock's got a few, but they definitely don't sell as many. Well, Asus might. Hard to say. Asus has had some issues as of late in the news regarding how they're handling warranties, and then they had issues with how they were handling reviews as advertisements. And we're starting to see boycotts on Asus from gamers in the gaming community right now. Will it continue? I don't know, but It doesn't break my heart. I kind of left Asus behind a while back, but they do have some very interesting mini PCs that I would definitely love to get my hands on if they were more affordable. Are the B-Link computers any good? Yeah, I like the B-Link computers as well, but we haven't seen anything new from them. They're supposed to have some new stuff coming out soon. And with Computex going on right now in Taiwan, um, that's where all there's a lot of consumer level stuff on display from new cases from Antec and Leon Lee and, you know, all the case manufacturers we're familiar with, as well as Intel and AMD talking about their upcoming chips, NVIDIA. You'll find a lot of stuff going on at Computex on YouTube this week. I think it officially started today, goes on for a few days. And so folks like Gamers Nexus and NAS Compares showing, you know, here's what's new from Synology or what's coming up, stuff like that. If you want an early sneak peek, none of this stuff is really available out yet, generally speaking. It's the Consumer Electronics Show for Asia, effectively. I've never been there. I don't want to go to Taipei in what is one of the hottest and most humid times of year. It's a long flight, and I feel like it's already oversaturated with content creators and journalists. I don't feel like I will add anything new. I like to do things different. So maybe a smaller, lesser known convention or display would be more interesting to me. Regardless of where it's located, it would be worth traveling somewhere that not everybody else is doing at the same time, from my opinion. But if you want that latest and greatest content, you know, NAS Compares, Gamers Nexus, there's a bunch of folks out there. Those are the only two that are coming to mind right now. Kay Morton says, what are my thoughts on the Chewy Mini PC? Well, Chewy's one of those manufacturers we've never heard of. We don't know much about. We've had a mixed bag, but you know, be sure and check out reviews and my YouTube reviews as well as others, and see what you think about it. Because what I think about it, it's your money. You know what I mean? But depending on how much you want to spend and what's acceptable to you, you might like it, you might not like it. Wakeless wants to know, do you think this thing would get pretty hot playing games for more than an hour? Well, so there's so many different kinds of games, from esports and RPG, first-person shooters, retro gaming. So depending on what kind of game we're talking about, it's really hard to say. I don't know. I expect, this would be how I would project it. I think it's going to play the games fine. I think you're going to hear that fan cranking up if it's like a AAA title game. All right. I think if anything's going to throttle thermally, it'll be the RAM. I don't know if that will affect your gameplay or not. You may not even know it's happening, or it may not even happen, right? If you're in a hot room, you know, the temperature of the room, if you've got any of these vents blocked, your experience could be very different. Also, I'm in Arizona where it's very dry. If you're somewhere else where it's very humid, you and I could be doing the exact same thing with two completely different results. So if you buy this from Amazon, you can then evaluate it for your specific needs and expectations. And if it doesn't meet that, you have 30 days to return it to Amazon for a full refund, no questions asked. At least here in the US, that's how it works. This does have a 3-year warranty. But because of the variety of games and people's individual feelings and values, there's no way there's a one-size-fits-all blanket to this. Now, if you bought it and you couldn't return it and you found the gaming left more to be desired than you were demanding, you could always get an external graphics card and plug it into the USB 4 port. You know, if you've got that kind of money to throw around, it's certainly an option. But gaming is too vague. You know, could I use this pan to cook in? It depends what you're cooking. Soup? probably not a frying pan. You know what I mean? And since I don't know these details, and there's millions of different things you could be cooking and quantities and how you prefer it cooked, there's just no way for anybody to answer your question. You have to make a decision and have an experience. And then what we would love is for you to share your experience with us, right? What did you like or what did you not like? And if enough people do that, we can generate our consensus, not just what one guy says. If I try this food, am I going to like it? I don't know. Is it going to make me full? I don't know. You're going to have to eat it, see if you like it, and see if it fills you up. You're going to have to tell me this information. It's some questions I just can't answer. I don't think anybody can answer those questions. Unless, of course, they know you really well. All right, let's go back over here to our desktop here. We're still installing something almost done, and then we're going to reboot. Gabriel says hello. Al Hedge, they're joining us. There's Dave Price. I will say, and I want to remind you, that the 780M integrated graphics on the AMD CPU is the best integrated graphics integrated into a CPU, better than Intel. It's better than everybody else. But will that be good enough for you? I don't know, but that's as good as it is right now. You might want discrete graphics. Nothing else may please you other than discrete graphics. Or you'll be just fine with the integrated. But if this integrated graphics isn't good enough for you, then there is no integrated graphics good enough for you. Not yet. So that's something to just keep that in mind. John Williams says the CyberGeek Mini PC is working well and his B-Link is working well. I think in general, the mini PCs work very reliably. It's the people who want to keep opening them up and tinkering with them or trying to overclock them, they're trying to do something they weren't designed to do, or they don't handle it carefully. Maybe they knock it onto the floor a few times or spill something on it. These are the people that are generally going to have problems, and they're always going to, and it won't matter what you sell them, right? And there's other people who are a little more reasonable with how they treat their equipment and what they expect the equipment to do. If you want to take your Mazda Miata out four-wheeling out in the desert, yeah, maybe it's okay. Maybe you break it. It wasn't designed to do that. So obviously, the likelihood of breaking that is going to be higher if you're using it in a way it's not intended to be used. But like anything else, it could break just through normal wear and tear. That's typically not representative of the major reason why these mini PCs fail. From the information I've gleaned over 10 years of working with these is, generally speaking, if you're a very reasonable person and you're not always trying to make it better, if you just leave it the way it is, it'll likely run for a very long time. If there's a power spike that kills it, nothing you can really do about that. If you have a part that just randomly fails, that does happen, but it's very uncommon. To receive one that has a problem does happen. Sometimes it gets damaged in shipping, but you're going to be under warranty. You're going to be within your return period. It might be inconvenient. I wouldn't necessarily blame the manufacturer. That happens because of transportation. Once you get it, if it works and you use it like a regular person uses a computer, it's probably going to last you a very long time. On the other hand, if you're somebody that likes to open things up and keep trying to upgrade and you just can't leave it alone, you will likely be one of the people who complain first. Likely. That's true of all things, really. All right, let me go back over and see how we're progressing along here. Should be about done and ready for a reboot. And I'm very pleased that there aren't more missing updates. This is very mild. And this is a big update right here. This big cumulative update preview is a big one. This one even took a while to install on the high-end streamer behind me. Kelly Stewart says, I have to get ready to go to work. I'll see y'all sometime later. Have a great day and show. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for hanging out with us. I just saw you for the first time in there. I guess hi and bye. Steve Chappelle wants to know if this would be overkill in an office environment. I think in an office environment, first of all, it's going to be an office expense, a business expense. It's going to last you a very long time. It's going to take very little space. And as the office needs change in the next 4, 5, 6 years, this should keep up with those changes. So it may be a little overkill depending on what kind of work it's going to be used for, but it is something you can grow into that would be reliable, small, and very affordable. So I would say no. My office clients would likely all like this mini PC. If anything, they might be afraid somebody's going to steal it. They could almost put it in their pocket. But is there a Kensington lock on this? No, there's no Kensington lock. So there's no way to lock this down, but you could use the Visa mount and mount it if you were afraid of it growing legs and walking away. Depends on the office and the employees, I suppose. That would be about the only concern I would hear from at least one of my clients. But with regards to how it performs, how it looks, the sound, likely the fans are still quieter in this when it's ramping up than on their desktops when their desktops are ramping up. But if their office is mainly doing websites, emails, PDF files, Word and Office, documents, Excel, likely this thing will very rarely ever crank up for more than a few seconds. Okay, just about done with this install, and we can do our reboot here and continue on. We can test the speed of the NVMe drive, and I don't know, see what else we can test on here. Kelly Stewart said, I've been working and sleeping too darn much. I need a vacation. Yeah, me too. Darn vacations. Why they have to be so short and cost so much? If you've asked a question and I haven't addressed it, it's likely because I haven't seen it. So you can do us both a favor by reposting your question again as we're kind of stalling for time, waiting for this install to finish. If you asked a question earlier while I was distracted, I'm not distracted right now, so please ask it again. There we go. Let's go ahead and restart. Now remember, when we restart after updates, it's got to finish installing the updates. So the length of time it takes to restart is going to be longer than normal. But you guys should know that by now. John Williams says, I hope Studio C is coming along. Is Jimmy still doing well? Yes to both. Yes. How is the new studio progressing? So far, everything is on schedule. We haven't had any delays yet, and we're moving right along. So let's hope it continues that way for the next couple weeks. But I couldn't ask for it to be going any better. I just hope it sustains, but it's okay if there's any unexpected delays. We've got a little bit of buffer, but I'd rather not use it if I don't have to. But I also want to make sure it's done right the first time. So I don't want to rush it only to end up having to redo something. So if it does take longer to get it done right, I'm okay with it. But so far it is being done right and on time without any delays. So I couldn't ask for anything better. Very, very pleased with our progress. I mean, we've only been working on it a week. Everything else was getting it ready to get worked on, getting it scheduled. So now that it's being worked on in just a week's time, it has made amazing progress. But we're likely a third or a quarter of the way there. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us. Ray Gallagher says, do you think this unit can handle an external drive? Well, that's what the USB 4 Type-C port would be ideal. With a 40 gig per second port, it's very, very fast, if not the fastest port you can get on a PC. So if you plug in an external drive that can support USB 4, which I'm not aware of any that exist, but I'm sure there's one or two out there somewhere, maybe Kickstarter or something. But yeah, absolutely no problem. In fact, you could use the regular USB Type-A ports for most average ordinary drives. But if you wanted something screaming fast, that USB 4 Type-C port doesn't get any faster than that right now. Okay, so we're back up and running here, and just one more time, I'm going to go back over to Windows Update. Hopefully we don't have any more of these. And while that's looking, let me grab my USB flash drive, copy some of my utilities over for testing. One more time, and check advanced to make sure we, yeah, 0 optionals. That's crazy. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's pretty well up to date. Let's go to, I like to put VLC on these versus using the Windows built-in media stuff, which I think is just crap. And we'll put my optimizer on there just because we can. And under PC testing software, we'll put on Crystal Disk Info. Oops. Oh yeah, I guess I did that. Crystal Disk Mark. We could run Cinebench on this if we want to. And we'll disconnect the flash drive. Not wanting to let it go. Normally you can just unplug these since we're not reading or writing. We could also right click and choose eject. Sometimes that works a little better. Yeah, that did it. Either way, or just unplug it. As long as it's not reading or writing when you pull it out, it should be fine. There's our drive. It's 2 terabytes. There. Okay. Crystal Disk Mark. Wait, let's do Crystal Disk info. Let's see what's the make and model. Is it name brand? It's an Acer N7000, 2 terabyte, Gen 4. Been powered on 16 times. It has 2 hours of use on it. Okay. That checks out. And let's see what our numbers are. Crystal Disk Mark. Let's do it. So on Gen 4, we want to see a number above 4,000 and upwards of around 73, 7,400 on the high end. You rarely will get a high end. Oh, hello. You will rarely get a high end Gen 4 drive on a mini PC because they want to keep the price aggressively competitive. And if they put high-end expensive components in it, they can't, you know, the average consumer just doesn't know enough about technology or care enough to really understand what they're buying. Well, this one is the same CPU and the same 2 terabytes, but it costs less. Well, that's because that other one likely has a 2 terabyte drive that runs at half the speed. Would you notice it? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. But I didn't expect to see 7,000. I was expecting like 4,600. So that's at the higher end of Gen 4. Geekom continues to impress me. But also, this is a flagship product. In other words, this should be the best you can buy in the consumer side of things. And so they should not be going cheap on it, though they often do to be competitive. One would argue that this is more competitive because you're getting a lot more for a little bit more money than, let's say, somebody else who's using less RAM or lesser known brands that run at significantly lower performance, but still meet the same quantity, like still the same amount of storage or still the same amount of RAM, but it's not all the same in how it works or how reliable it is or how fast it is. I'm glad to see that. Barry Klein says, I hope Studio C is located on an island in Tahiti where you'll be served drinks on the beach and the drinks have little umbrellas on them. You know what everybody's going to say about the audio? Why is it so staticky? That's the waves of the ocean. I don't know. Your audio is terrible. All I hear is static in the background. Hold on. Let me see if I can mute out nature. No, that'd be great. I'm okay with it. Look at the write speed. Even the write speed is over 6,400. Wow. Wow. Color me impressed. I've learned to set lower expectations than I would build myself based on the very common sort of simplistic, let's try and shave a penny everywhere we can by giving the customer less. I'm glad Geekom has not done that with a flagship model, because anytime you're representing the best, like if you're saying, this is the best my company makes, and then you cheap out with other, slower, smaller storage or smaller, lesser RAM, maybe it's single channel, not dual channel, that's fine on your budget models. But when you're trying to say, this is an example of how good it gets, this is what we can do, then the whole idea of pricing it aggressively changes, because it should be in line with the quality and performance of the products that are installed in it, the hardware, the SSD manufacturer, the RAM manufacturer, the speed of the RAM, the speed of the SSD. That's going to affect the price. And I appreciate there's no RGB on this, because all that would do is add to the cost and just be one more thing that gets in the way. And many people find annoying when it's in a bedroom when you're trying to sleep and you leave the thing on and you can't figure out how to turn the RGB off. So I'm delighted and impressed personally at everything I've seen so far. Now we still have to take the bottom off of it and see how we can get to the storage and RAM, but it's Geekom. I expect it should be pretty straightforward, but we'll find out here in a minute. This looks like our test is done, so let me go ahead and save these results. I am very happy with this. I don't see any reason that I would need to update. Let me rephrase. I don't see any reason I would need to open this and change out the RAM or the storage. They're very, very good. The benefit of going to a faster Gen 4 is only like 300 or 400 more megabytes per second, which in reality is about 2 milliseconds on a big transfer. So who cares? It's pretty much for most human beings, it would be completely the difference would be unnoticeable by a human being for the most part. Let's do crystal disk mark. Save it as a JPEG on the desktop. Okay, so now we got those results saved right over here. Perfect. Let's run the optimizer right quick, just because we can. You'll see access denied. That's just turning indexing off. Some files are in use. It's still setting the indexing to off, so you can. That's normal and expected. Look at it fly. Holy cow. You get all that? Because it's done. Holy cow. Wow. Let's let those changes take effect with a reboot. And I have to say, I would expect the price on this to be pretty much where it is. But there are discounts and coupons that bring the price down even further. So if this is appealing at the MSRP, it only gets more so appealing with the discounts they're offering. So again, I don't know your values and your budget, but I think anybody who orders this would be happy with it. If you can't be happy with this at this price, I don't know how to make you happy with technology. I think you might have impossible expectations. But, you know, to each their own. I just don't know how you could think this is not enough without spending significantly more money. Let's shut it down. And then let's go over back to, let's see, camera 1 here. And let me get the overhead camera hooked up and we'll do a top down and me taking it apart. So once again, I don't have anything still hooked up here. Oh, you know what? Maybe I do. Let me bring this camera down for a second. You get a little behind the scenes of how this stuff works. Lucky you. Now, I did charge this battery up the other day, so it's like the HDMI cable was left connected, which is good. I think if we run off battery, hopefully I don't have to run another cable here to keep it powered on. I think the battery's fully charged. Now, let's get this raised back up, because once it's up there, I can't really reach it. And let's bring up camera, what do we call this? Close-up camera. For some reason, down there. All right, now I'm gonna have to align this. I'm not quite sure if it's shining down where I need it. Let's see what it's pointing at. It's pretty close. Pretty close. Maybe we can even zoom in a little. Bring it that way. All right. Let's get things unplugged here. Let's see, can I bring this more towards me? Be right about there. I'll meet the camera in the middle. I'd prefer to have this a little closer to me, but that's all right. So, got an indicator that says this is the front that's facing me. Oh, that camera's picking that up right there. But that just tells you when you take this bottom off that you want this side facing where the power button is, the front of the unit. These little rubber feet are, obviously there's no screws, so the screws have to be, yikes, hold on, this isn't going to be, make some more adjustments here. Wow, that is really, really far from me. I think that's the best I could do. Let me just try. La Saxon with a 5-pound contribution said, hope you're well, Carrie. Excuse me. Just got my new 7950X 3D running this evening. It's an absolute monster. Well worth the purchase. I think that's what's in the streamer behind me. 7950X or the 7950X3D. I can't remember what I put in it, but I'm very happy with it. Obviously, you still see me using it. That tells you all you need to know. All right, let's see what's in here and how we can get at it. I'm going to grab a small flat edge screwdriver and see if I can get underneath these feet. Interesting. So the rubber feet, they do have sticky tape, but they also have little tabs that lock in. So it's interesting, and they've done both. I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't know why you need the stickiness on them, but maybe that's just there to help secure it. I can't believe how small this is. Very thin. Okay. Grab my number 1 driver here. 1, 2. Not that it matters. Don't mind my OCD. Pay no attention to my OCD. Humor me. Okay, now, there doesn't seem to be any way to pull this up. So I guess maybe if I take the straight edge driver and fit in one of those slots, I can lift. Now, my understanding before I do this, that the Wi-Fi antenna is on the plastic side instead of the metal side for better reception. And if you just pop this thing off, you might rip the antenna off. Okay, so take this off gently, because it's a very thin wire. Yeah, just as I was told. Let's see, where can I find him? Still not good on my camera position here. Hold on a second. It's got to go this way. It's got to go. Still not right. That's better. Oh, pushed it too far the other way. All right, so we've got this very delicate cable right here. Now this is interesting. We have this metal plate here. And again, this metal plate says front facing me, etched into the metal, which is good. It's not a sticker that'll ever come off. And you'll see the Wi-Fi antenna is taped here. And we've got 4 more screws. What this appears to be is a heat sink for the NVMe drive. Maybe it's a heatsink for the RAM, but I don't know. Let's take a look. Now, if you were to take this off, you might want to remove the tape here so that you don't pull this antenna. It's very easy to break those wires. Ask me how I know. So you do want to exercise some caution when you're working at any of these mini PCs. Everything's very small. Some of the components are a little delicate. Now, this is having a little trouble coming up, which suggests to me there's some thermal tape that's perhaps kind of stuck to whatever it's cooling. There it goes. Again, very gentle. I don't want to pull on that wire too much. It looks like I don't have a choice but to remove this. Be careful so I can put it right back on. There we go. Yeah, okay. So there's our thermal tape for the NVMe drive. What this is. That seems to, oh, so what this is, there's an LED behind the power button, and it would shine and light up the whole inside of this, and your power button wouldn't be all that bright. So this is like a shade that goes around the LED and the power button, so it forces all the light out that way. So your power button LED is a little bit brighter. It didn't come across to me as being too bright, though. Of course, people have said that about me. So there's our Acer NVMe drive right there. I bet underneath that we have a Wi-Fi card that I suppose if you didn't want the MediaTek and you wanted to put an Intel Wi-Fi card in there or Realtek, it's fully replaceable. That's very easy. It's socketed and it's right underneath our NVMe drive, which is represented here. Camera focus. It's trying. It's trying. There it goes. All right. This metal box you see here, that is our SD card reader. That's where our SD card slot is. You'll notice there's really no room to upgrade anything in here. We're pretty tightly compact in a very thin package. This is Crucial branded DDR5 RAM. There are 2 sticks of 16 gig, 5600 speed RAM. So let me take a look here into the chat and see if anybody's got any questions while I have this open. Chris Garrett said if the wires come unhooked, they're hard to connect back if you have big hands. They're hard to connect back if you have small hands too. Sometimes it helps to use some very fine, narrow pliers if you're very delicate and careful with them, or tweezers, something to help guide them. You cannot add any drives to this. There's only one M.2 slot. It's way too thin, and it's already running hot. I strongly advise you do not put any drives additionally into a mini PC. All you're doing is adding heat. This is a very hot area. There's no fan on this side of most mini PCs. I think it's extraordinarily foolish to try and add a 2.5-inch drive into any mini PC unless you just don't care about heat. Trapping more heat in an area where there is no fan is just not smart. I am glad they're not offering the option of adding a 2.5-inch drive, because this would have to be taller and you would likely run into some throttling concerns with the drives without anything blowing air on it. But the good news is you can put a 2.5-inch drive into a USB connector and run it externally all day. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a mini PC, in my opinion. If you want to just jam a bunch of crap in it, it can't be mini anymore. It has to be larger to accommodate extra crap. I'm going to suggest keep your crap external. Keep what you need, what's absolutely important in the mini PC, so that it can be as small and unobtrusive and the fans can run quieter and you won't have to deal with heat. And that's true of all mini PCs, period. But especially when they're very thin, you're not going to get the option for that, nor should you want that, in my opinion, just so you know. Chris Garrett said, if you want 2 drives, get a desktop. Well, you're fine with the USB ports, though. You could add 1, 2, 3, 4 drives to this, no problem. Plus, you got additional USB ports up front. So, use a NAS if you've got that much storage. That's ridiculous. However, 2.5-inch drives are slow anyway. So why would you get a high-end PC and then put a slow 2.5-inch drive on it? That doesn't make any sense either. So they've solved that problem here by not offering it to you, and it keeps the machine much cooler, much smaller, and much cheaper. So, well, maybe not much cheaper, but a little cheaper. All right, I guess I could put this back together. But if you have any questions for me while I've got it open, I'll do my best to answer them. Would this be overkill for music production and streaming? Well, once again, there are lots of different levels of music production, and it's always better to have a little overkill so you can grow into it, right? It's not about what you need today. It's what are your needs going to be next year or 2 years from now. This is not a major investment. You're under $1,000, and you're getting an entire desktop computer here, shrunken down. And it's really depending on the type of music production you're doing, what your demands are, and whether or not you need Thunderbolt, for example. Some music cards require that. There's not any sort of one size fits all to that. And at the end of the day, that'll be a decision you'd have to make and report back to us on how it works for you. TWC Custer said, what is the extra connector there for? I have to assume the only extra connector I see is this one right here. And it looks to me, well, let's see if I can read it. I would guess that's a fan connector, but if it were a data connector, it would not just have 4 pins. It would have to have like 30 pins inside of it. They wouldn't be pins per se, but like a USB stick has those flat metal lines. You'd have a bunch of those in a much smaller, longer connector. If you look at other 2.5-inch SATA connectors on mini PCs, they don't look anything like that. Typically fan connectors, something delivering power, is typically that size and shape with that number of pins. But I don't know what it is. It's not being used. This motherboard that they're using in here may be used in other mini PC offerings and may be utilized in those configurations. Or, let's see if I can read it. There may have been a version for like a fan that could be on the cooler. So right here, there's another one. There's 2 of them. This appears to be a USB header, which would explain the 4 pins. This says USB 2, and this one is likely another USB for some configuration that this is not sold with. So these would not be used. But again, if you look at other mini PCs, the little SATA plugin is going to be half this width, and it won't have physical pins. it's going to have those, I don't know what you call them, those landings. So they, instead of plugging something like a pin into a plug, it's more like a metal connection going against another metal connection in against each other this way. So in any event, yeah, 4 pins would not be enough for a SATA connection. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. And let me just look in the chat one more time here before we start putting this back together. All right, so let's see. I know this little hood is going to go over the power button, which is over here. And of course, it does say front etched right into the metal. I appreciate that because I'm often quite forgetful of what the orientation was. When I take these things apart, I should be paying attention. And yet I don't. Even now, when I know better, I still have created a bad habit of being too excited and anxious to see what's hiding underneath. And then when I go to put it back together, I'm like, oh, did it go this way or that way? Of course, I can always play back the video if I have to, but yeah, if I'd have just paid attention, or if the manufacturers indicate which way is forward, saves me that embarrassment. And make it straighten in the middle. All right, now I can put the tape back on here. And again, front. Seats right down in there. Do not over tighten screws that on any of these mini PCs because of any plastics. If you really crank down on these screws, you could crack the plastic. And as the machine ages, the plastic becomes more brittle, and that opportunity only gets even more delicate. Apparently, I got a foot stuck to my arm. Quote me on that. Nice. Very good. I'm telling you, I've had grilled cheese sandwiches that are bigger than this. Talk about taking a bite out of something. All right, let's plug it back in. Make sure I didn't break it. How about that? Turn that back on. There's our blue light. And we'll go back over to camera 1. And let's go back over to our HDMI input. Make sure this thing's booting. We're off to a good start. That's promising. Well, looks like I didn't break it. And let's see. We could run the Cinebench on here just to be mean. This is a flagship processor after all, so let's see what it does. Give it the beans. Oh, you know what? We should be watching our temperatures too. Let me grab my flash drive again and copy that over real quick. Where did it go? There it is. Let's start the multi-core test. Keep an eye on these temps as it's running. It's going to warm up for 10 minutes and then perform the benchmark afterwards. Now, the CPU will get super hot with Cinebench R23 right in the first minute or so. And that's typically about the worst we're going to see. What did it rate? Ooh, we got to 92. Ooh, that's toasty. I hope we don't see anything more than that. I know AMD will like to run their CPUs at 95 and say that's normal. I don't like that, but looks like our current temps right now through the cores are still in the upper 80s, low 90s. It is running hot, but not too hot yet. But definitely that should be the worst of it. Now, as it continues on, it'll probably be cooler. And if 92 is the peak, that's fine as long as it's temporary, in my opinion. So we'll let that run and then we'll see what our benchmarks are. And I definitely hear that fan working right now. That's the loudest it's been. So I suspect that's probably as loud as it can get. You definitely know it's working right now. Marlena wants to know if a grilled cheese would perform better than this. I suspect my grilled cheese would be much hotter. I would hope so anyway. I don't want a 90-degree grilled cheese. That sounds like it's old. If it's not burning the roof of my mouth, it's not fresh. Doman says the noise is filtered pretty hard, so we hear nothing. That's because you just hear my air conditioner. We're going to be over 110 degrees Fahrenheit here in a couple days. we're working our way closer to that each day this week. So the AC is really running hard, and it can be a little bit noisy trying to battle that outdoor temperature in a building that's not that well insulated. That's not helping. And that's why it's filtered. Trust me, you don't want to hear what's going on back there with the AC. It's very distracting to our audio. Also, how much noise a fan makes really depends on size room you've got it in, how far away you are from it, and how deaf or sensitive your ears are. So one person may not notice it, and someone else could say, this drives me crazy. When you're doing intense tasks like this, probably a mini PC isn't the best way to go if you're going to be doing this a lot. Mini PCs in general are going to run hotter, as would a laptop or anything else, trying to combine a lot of power into a very small package. However, from time to time, if you're, cranking things up, it's totally fine. It can handle it. And for me personally, if it ran at this noise level at idle, this would not be acceptable. And if I was doing stuff like this for hours a day, every day, this would not be acceptable. But this would also not be the right tool, right? I mean, trying to use a hammer as a pair of scissors, of course, you're not going to be happy with the end result. You're not using the appropriate tool for that job. But on occasion, given the fact that it's a flagship processor, given how small and thin and affordable it is, I'm impressed it can do this at this level. The very fact that we're even entertaining this is quite humorous to me. And it's just amazing how far this technology's gone. Just imagine in 5 years how much smaller, how much faster these things are going to get. And we might look back at this very differently, but I'm very impressed. So again, to do stuff like this occasionally, no problem. If you wanted to do this every day, all the time, you'd probably be better off with a desktop. Let's see. So the Intel version from Geekom is the GT series. And maybe we can get to that, if not later this week, early next week. The GT13 Pro, if you're curious what the Intel alternative, if you're not an AMD fan, or you're just curious about specs and price difference between the two, you could certainly jump ahead and Google that information or look for other YouTube reviewers that might have already done it. I'm going to save the surprise for me. No spoilers. Cord Oliver joins us in the chat, says, hello, welcome in, Cord. G Hugh in the chat says, Intel says 105 degrees is normal for their latest Ultra series mobile CPUs. That's fine if it's a max, but I don't want it to be the normal operating temperature. Look, the higher the maximum, the better. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be up in the high temperatures very long, just momentarily to, do whatever it needs to do to get a job done that I'm asking it to do. Benchmarks like these synthetic benchmarks, these are mostly pointless nonsense that everybody gets wrapped up in on the internet. Average ordinary computer users wouldn't waste their time with this crap that's more or less meaningless and not reflective of actual people using the machine in reality. We have a bunch of benchmark fascinators online. That's all they care about. And that's all they use their machine for. They don't actually do anything with it any more important than running benchmarks. We don't have that kind of time in the world I live in, but because people want something to compare it, we run these benchmarks. So when you're looking at other reviewers and you're looking at other models, you can measure that. I don't know how much accuracy that measurement has in reality. However, I personally don't put much weight in these synthetic benchmarks. I've never had a customer ever determine the value of a computer based on a benchmark. It's never happened in reality. They want it, their benchmark is, does it feel fast to me? Does it run the software I want it to run better than the machine I had? And it's something each individual has to feel. It's like taste or smell. What might smell good to you might smell bad to me. How do you benchmark a smell? How do you benchmark a feeling? You can. Make no mistake, that benchmark is possible by you having the personal experience and you personally benchmarking it based on your own personal value system that only matters to you and nobody else. Same with movie critics. When they tell you a movie's good or bad, how often do you disagree with them? For me, pretty regularly. Until I see the movie myself, I really don't know. But I've learned to just listen to those reviews with a very large grain of salt and say, wow, these people are talking about stuff I would have never considered. I don't think they're really enjoying the movie. They're thinking way too much. Instead of letting the movie take them on this adventure, they're trying to keep one foot in the adventure and one foot in reality. And it's like, if it's a documentary, maybe, but if it's a science fiction or, fiction at all, let them take you. Let go and enjoy the ride. Unless it's so preposterous and stupid, you have to ask to get off the ride because it's making you nauseous. But that doesn't mean everybody else is getting nauseous. And this is the problem with benchmarks, right? At the end of the day, the best benchmark is putting it into the individual customer's hands and seeing if it meets that individual customer's values and expectations. That's all that matters in the world if you're running a business. I don't care what a synthetic benchmark says. It does not tell me, for example, this is what it looks like outside if it's raining. And then you go outside when it's raining and it looks nothing at all like that. You certainly can't feel the weather. You can't feel the rain. You can't feel the humidity. It is completely numb and lacks the other four sensations we have as human beings. But if you're locked in a prison cell and that's the closest thing you can get to being outdoors, hey, enjoy your benchmarks. Okay, there's our first result, and let's go ahead and run our single core. Once again, I expect this to get very, very hot here in the first minute, and let's see what it does. Let me walk up to that first score because I can't see it from this far away. We got 15,879 on our multi-core test. Well, that puts it right in Threadripper territory. Older Threadripper, but still, how technology has evolved so quickly. That Threadripper processor, by the way, costs more than this whole computer. That doesn't include a motherboard, RAM, cooler case, power supply, operating system. Yeah, what a deal. Oh, I love it. If you like these videos, these real-time, live, unscripted, unedited, live unboxings, and you want to see more like them, you can let me know by making sure that you hit our thumbs up button below the video and hit the subscribe button, turn the bell notification to turn on notifications to let you know anytime we post a new video or go live. That's all free. And then, of course, if you become a member of the channel for $9.99 a month, of course, YouTube takes 30% of that before I ever see it. But that enables you to members-only exclusive videos, as well as members-only exclusive benefits that only members only know about. And it helps support the channel and keep us commercial-free with regards to Well, a lot of corporations would like for me to tell you things they want me to say. They want me to read a script. They want me to review what they want me to review, and they're going to pay me handsomely for it. And I have said no every single time. If I can't say what I truly want to say, and I can't review what I truly want to review, then I don't want to make these videos. And you guys, through your memberships and through your contributions, are making this possible, sort of like the public broadcast system or NPR or something, where viewer funded, with a few exceptions that, like Acronym and RoboForm and our friends at VIP CDK deals. But these are all services I use anyway, and I would still recommend them. The main thing is that I'm getting you a discount on. And when I bought them, when I was initially, years and years ago, when I was initially evaluating these companies for my business needs and my business clients' needs, I thought they were a bargain at full price, and they still are. But for you, the audience watching this video, all three of those companies offer you a 30% discount. And there's always trials of the software, so you can try it before you buy it. And everything is personally guaranteed by me. You will not be ripped off. I guarantee that. These are all excellent companies that stand behind their products, or I would have nothing to do with them. I know a lot of content creators just want to grab the money, trying to make sure that you guys are getting offers that are better than MSRP from products I actually use in my business. And not all companies will participate with me. So those that do support us, that's a good reason to support them back, in my opinion. And that's how we can continue to do what we do here, which is unlike any other YouTube channel as far as I know. This is very real, and I'm a real working computer technician for over 30 years. I'm not an enthusiast. Well, I'm more of an enthusiast because I do it every day for my living, my career. It's not just for fun. So I think I'm more of an enthusiast than most enthusiasts because I've taken it a step further. Now, that being said, if you're looking for commercials, if you're looking for nothing but all the highlights and edited scripted content that may be paid for as a review, you got all of YouTube on the tech side, clearly the vast majority of it. That's what it is. And that's how they make money. I can't blame them for it. It's too bad there's not better transparency so that you can understand the difference, but maybe you do. I don't know that the average person would know any better. However, they each have a benefit, and somewhere in there, I think you should watch them both to get, the very thorough sort of unboxing from me and sort of the quick stuff and maybe some actual gaming being done if that's your thing. Other channels do that stuff. The odds they're going to play the game you play, it seems pretty low, but maybe. David Graham with a $2 super chat says, great job, Carrie. Nice mini. Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. I cannot get over how little this is. I wish I had a couple slices of bread because that would be a great thing to compare it to. Let me see. What do I have around here that's about that size? Well, I guess you guys know I don't have a loaf of bread. Anything in the refrigerator? No. Geez, what else could be that size I could use? I'm just kind of looking around the kitchen. I'm stuck on the bread thing. I'm thinking maybe there's another food item. Maybe a square of cheese that would go on the bread? No, I don't eat that. It's not in the refrigerator. Gotta be creative here. What is that similar to? I'm telling you, it looks like a sandwich. You've all seen sandwiches before. I guess I really don't have to show it on camera. It looks like the same shape and size as a sandwich. That's crazy. I've never eaten a sandwich with that much power. Yeah, I'm just going to say a sandwich. That's what it is. Sandwich size. That's exactly what it is. And depending on how you make your sandwiches, it might actually be taller than this thing. A thin sandwich. I think a grilled cheese sandwich. I wish I had one. If I could do this video over again, I would go to the store and buy some cheese and some bread, and then I would cook a grilled cheese sandwich and put it right beside this. I think that'd be an awesome comparison. Maybe we'll have to take a photo of that later and change the thumbnail. Or who knows, maybe Mara can find a picture of a grilled cheese sandwich and just get the dimensions right. That's just impressive, very impressive. Mara says, I dare you to plug something USB into a grilled cheese sandwich. Seems like I'm probably going to get some cheese in the USB plug. Explain that to the repair tech at Geek Squad. Can you help me get cheese out of my ports? A CD jewel case. CD jewel case would be bigger than this, but thinner. You probably need about 4 or 5. I'd say 4 CD jewel cases stacked on top of each other, and they'd be a little longer length and length and width would be a little bit, maybe an inch or so longer on each side, but you need about 4 of them to get the height. It's smaller than a CD jewel case. I think a CD, if I placed a CD on top of it, I don't even think I have any CDs anymore, would likely fit right on top of this thing, right up to the edges, I think. But I don't have any way to test that theory. Oh, I haven't been looking at my temps. Hold on a second. Let me go back to my screen, full screen here. Now I can see it. How have we done so far? Yeah, that 92 has been our max this whole time. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. I mean, at this point, we're down into the 40s on all the cores. So again, that's normal CPU operation. It should crank up in temperature when it cranks up in resource requirements during each individual process. And we should only be hitting the high temps temporarily for a short time. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see it just running in the 90s constantly, hour after hour after hour, day after day after day. You're going to significantly reduce the life of your computer if that's what you do. So you're sort of abusing it, but if you're going to replace it after a couple of years, abuse away. If you are abusing it, you likely have underbought. That's what it suggests to me. You should have bought something more powerful if that's how you intend to use it. It looks like we're on our final run now, and we should have our benchmark number from Cinebench here very soon, and just on time because we're just a little over the 2-hour mark. So I think that'll probably, once we get these numbers, be the end of our testing. Overall, I got to say, I am very impressed with this. I think the price for what you're getting is especially with the discounts, with the quality of Geekom and the uniqueness and design and how it's equipped. You wouldn't need to do anything to this. If you had the same configuration they sent me, there's no upgrade I could do to this at this point. It is perfect, just the way I would have built it. The way the OS is installed is just the way I would have installed it. The power adapter being as little as it is, it's a nice bonus. The fact it comes with the VESA adapter, well, I don't use them. It's nice to always have that as an option. The fact that it lacks RGB, to me, makes it more professional. The feeling of the case being metal like that, with the top and bottom being plastic, probably impede wireless range, Bluetooth range as a result, maybe, which is why the antenna is on the plastic side. However, I don't think that's going to be a big deal for me or any of my clients. We're not pushing them that far from the router where that should make a difference. And if we did, we could always just plug a USB wireless adapter into it. If we needed external antennas on it, we could do that. They're like $30, no big deal. I don't know. I'm finding very little to dislike here. Mara says the mini PC is 4 inches by 4 inches by 1 inch tall. And what is a grilled cheese sandwich dimensions? That's what I want to know. Mara says a normal sandwich bread slice is 4.5 inches by 4.5. So a slice of bread is actually a ½ inch longer and wider, just not quite as tall. That's hilarious. That's the kind of research we do here that you won't find anywhere else. Okay, should almost have our results. Temps still look good. Almost done. Ooh, look at that single core all the way at the top of the ratings here. Of course, you know, the high end on that's 11th gen Intel, but nonetheless, I don't see any problem with being first. Last chance for questions. As this test ends, we will be wrapping things up. Guess I'll check the phone. I haven't checked the phone this whole broadcast. Let me see if I've missed anything. My apologies. I've been so infatuated with this. Let's see. Doesn't look like I've missed anything. Very good. And there's our final numbers. It looks like on our CPU single core Cinebench R23, we're at 1815, which is, if you notice in there, orange down below, puts us faster than what they were comparing it to from an 11th gen Intel Core i7, and faster, much faster than the the Ryzen Threadripper, the 2990WX. Anybody remember what the 2990WX CPU, just the CPU, what that sold for when it was brand new? I think it was $3,000 or anyway, you could buy 3 of these Geekoms, maybe 4 of them at that price. How we have evolved in technology in such a short period of time, stuff like that just makes me happy. Let me thank the folks over at Geekom for sending the unit to us with no strings attached, just to review it. We will do the upcoming Intel variation here, in case you're interested in the Intel flagship version versus the AMD. Geekom is agnostic. They don't pick one over the other. They let you, the customer, decide. And I expect it'll be more of the same in the sense of a lot of power in a small package. I think the packaging on the Intel is different than this, but I don't know yet. It's still sealed in the box. I've got it here. I just have to take the time to make the video. A shout out and a thank you again to our friends at Acronym, RoboForm, and VIP CDK deals. All the discounts I've mentioned and all the free trials are in the links below this video. The links for the Geekom available from Geekom or Amazon or in the UK or Australia are all in our video notes below this video. Thanks to everyone hanging out in our chat room, all our members, supporters, and contributors during today's broadcast. I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this amazing community that we've created. I'll look forward to seeing you all again very soon. I have still more work to do over at Studio C, so I'll be heading over there later tonight and probably all of tomorrow to get some work done. I'm excited to show that to you when it's ready. We're still a few weeks away, so don't expect that tomorrow. But if you're wondering if the lack of content isn't because I don't have things to do. I've got too much to do, and I'm trying to do this over here and that over there, and I'm just, as a friend of mine said, spinning plates. Yeah, that's all going to be worth it, and then I'll be able to relax a little bit once we're all moved in there and everything is working as it should. And we might have some growing pains initially as we start broadcasting. Do expect there to be perhaps lighting or audio issues. Hopefully no internet connection issues. But if so, just like here, back when we first started here, this was really rough starting out here. That Studio C, since we kind of have an idea now what we're doing, maybe we'll get lucky and get it right out of the gate. Maybe it'll be a home run at our first pitch. It could happen. Thanks again, our friend John Jack Wilson, Buster. Thank you so much. Frankie B. Oystein, all of our regular contributors, and all the folks who make this possible. Of course, Mara, and all of you. I will see you all very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.